Hi kiddos. This is for those of you that may want a little bit more practice combining like terms. We're going to start, well first of all we're going to look here at one big expression. And as you can see, this is a big long mess. There's a way that we can make this easier to look at so we can tell what actually is here. You see we have a 10 plus a 4x squared minus a 2x plus 6 minus x squared minus 3. And you might have times where you're asked to simplify that, which basically means to clean it up. That looks like a big long math mess, doesn't it? So we're going to look at what you need to do when you are combining like terms. Well, this right here, terms are separated by addition or subtraction signs. So you see here I have a 10. A 10 doesn't have anything with it, it's just a regular old 10. So now I'm going to look right here and I'm going to see if that 10 is like my 4x squared. Now you see here there's a plus sign, so that's technically a positive 4x squared. But don't worry about that. We'll talk about that later. But we're going to look at the sign and the term. In order for them to be like, they have to follow these two rules. The first rule is that they have the same factor. And the second rule is that that factor is raised to the same power. And as you can see, x squared and 10 do not share a factor, so there's no way they can be like. So when I combine them, I'm not going to put those two terms together. Now I'm going to scoot my card over, and I'm just doing this so that I look at this term by term. I'm going until I see either a minus sign or a plus sign, and then I know I'm going to stop. Okay, so my next term is a minus 2x. Well, let's see. It has the same factor as 4x squared. I see this has an x and so does that. So it follows that rule, but it doesn't follow the rule of the same power. Look, this x is squared. That x isn't. So I'm going to look back at my 10. Is this 2x like my 10? No, not really. It's not like my 10 either, because 10 doesn't have a factor at all and 2x does. So this minus 2x is different than my 10 and from my 4x squared. So I'm going to just mark it a little differently. Okay. Now I see a sign of plus and another term of 6x. So this is, I'm adding 6x. If I look back at my term, 6x isn't like my 10. 10 doesn't have an x and this does. 6x is kind of like my 4x squared because they have the same factor, but this x is not raised to the same power. But as you can see, my 6x is like my 2x that's right before it, so I can mark it in the same way. The reason it's the same is because they both have that same factor of x, and that factor is raised to the same power. Neither one have an exponent. Okay? Next sign, next term. Now I'm looking at a minus x squared. Well, the first thing I want you to notice about this is there's no number right here. Whenever you run into a variable that doesn't have a number, if it helps you, you can write a 1 in there. That there is 1x squared right here. So it's okay to show a 1 right there. You're not changing anything. Well, let's look back at my terms. I see this x squared. I know that's not like the 10. Oh, look. Here's an x squared. There's an x squared. That is the same factor. That factor is raised to the same power. So I'm going to mark that like I marked my 4x squared. Now I'm going to move my card again to a sign and a term. Well, here I have a minus 3. If I look here, there's no factor, there's no letter. My minus 3 is like my 10, so I'm going to mark it in the same way. Now if you look right here, you have 3 different kinds of marks. You've got a green, a red, and a circle. I like to think of this now as these are terms, but I almost think of them as cars, and I need to park them in the garage. And because I've got 3 different marks, I need a 3-car garage. One of my doors is going to have an x squared. Any term that has an x squared with it's going to go here. My next, by looking up here at my garage, or my doors, I have terms with x's. So there I'm going to put my x's. And here I have just my constants. And those are the numbers that don't have any letters with them. So let's look back up here at our expression. I've got a 10. There's no x squared. 10 must be a constant. I'm going to write it there. Now I cross it off. Here I have a plus 4x squared. Technically that 4 squared is positive, that's why that plus is in front of it. Don't worry about that though, I'm just saying it to you. That's an x squared, it's going to go here, I've got a 4x squared. Done. Now I have a minus 2x. It's got an x, I need to take that sign, it's important. Done. Sorry. Now I have a plus 6x. I am going to take that sign. I'm going to write it right there because that's the garage door that the x's get parked in. Done. Now I have a minus 1x squared. It's going to go in over here. Take the sign with it. Minus 1x squared, and you are done. Excuse me. Now I have my minus 3. There's no variable. Anything without a variable is called a constant. I'm going to write the sign and the number right there, and I'm done. Now you need to basically add up here what's parked in the garage one column at a time. Now because we are dealing with numbers that have the same terms, we can almost just ignore those variables. For right now we're going to pretend like they're not there. We're just going to look at the coefficients. Sorry, there we go. What is 4 minus 1? Well, 4 minus 1 of course is 3, and because we are dealing with x squareds, I just bring those down. Now let's take a look at the next column. These are like terms, so I can just ignore the variables. I can manipulate their coefficients. I'm adding or subtracting their coefficients. Well, here you see we have a minus 2 and a plus 6. Sorry. Take a look here at a number line. We're starting at a minus 2. All minus 2 is just a little below 0. Now, we're going to move a plus 6. Here's my minus 2. Anytime you move positive, you move to the right, and we're going to move positive 6 spaces, or to the right 6 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see, I landed at 4. If I have a negative 2 and a positive 6, I end up with a 4. Those are x's. And if you look where we landed here on the number line, we landed on the positive side. So we are actually adding that 4x. Now again, when I look over here at my constants, I have 10 minus 3. Well, if you look at your number line, 10 would be here. If you move backwards 1, 2, 3, you're landing at 7. And that is a positive 7. It's on this side of 0. So we're going to add those 7s. That's what that looks like when you simplify terms. Try the next one or two on your own and check in with me so I can see how you did on it tomorrow. Bye.